to the third GTM Asking Experts. So we'll see how I get on here. Apologies if I sound a little bit croaky because I've got a bit of a cold at the moment, so my voice has gone a bit croaky. Theme today is kind of time-saving tips for GTM. We'll just quickly kind of go around the room and sort of see who's here. Just introduce yourself and say sort of what you're interested in learning today, or any, and then we'll kind of jump on into the tips. So we'll start with Marcella.
Hi, my name is Marcella. I'm trying to learn more. I'm fairly new to Tag Manager, so I'm trying to learn more on the e-commerce, like the data layer for e-commerce, and just how to properly tag.
Cool, brilliant. Sebastian?
Hi Phil, and hi everyone. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so my name is Martin Sebastian. I'm from Hungary, and I met you in Super Week, Phil.
Yeah.
And that's why I follow you, and I would like to learn the newest tricks from you as usual. And we started to implement most of the things that you showed us during the last two webinars, and we're also following blogs and group in G+ on G+. So we just try to follow the newest things in order to supply to our clients.
Okay, cool. And is there anything specific that you're looking to sort of solve at the moment, or anything that you're doing like that's sort of similar, or you think you might be able to automate?
Yeah, but I have it here in my notes, so if we
Okay.
could get back on it a few minutes later, thanks.
Okay, great. Cool. All right, and all right, so it's just the two of us, and then the okay. I'll just go on auto, so now it will just jump to whoever's talking. Okay, so I'll just kind of put up myself for a moment. All right, so I'll see if I can just. There's a couple of kind of useful resources. Also, actually, I should probably sort of say kind of what's happened in GTM world in the last kind of 2 weeks. So last time there was a new announcement of the CSS history listeners, which kind of came out. I haven't actually used that yet, but I'm sort of curious to see how people have got on with that. Also, I've now done. I did another migration this morning, which went smoothly, which is great, and also implemented JSON-LD tag this morning as well. Although I'm kind of waiting for that to render, so see if it worked. But other stuff that's changed, so there aren't any new features that I'm aware of that have come out recently, other than the ability to rename sort of tags as moved. So previously it was kind of in the middle of a page, now it's at the top. Yeah, so that's nothing greatly sort of new there, I think. And okay, so I'll jump to kind of tips. All right, so I'm just going to try and flick to screen share on here. Screen share.
Phil, sorry.
Yeah.
Could you show us how to do the markup, the schema.org markups with JSON-LD?
Yeah, sure.
Because I tried to implement it, and on some sites it was good. I mean, within a domain, on some sites it was good, and on some I put it into the structured markup testing tool, and it showed us some errors, but I couldn't figure it out what was the exact problem. So it only says that there are some problems on this and this, but not there is no specific guides that you should do in order to fix it.
Okay. Yeah. Just go on to. Okay.
Can I ask a question? When you did your migration, did you slowly go away from the old tags that were implemented on the website? Like, so at one point, were you using both, like the regular code and the Google?
Yes, so great question. So I'll just kind of do it one at a time if that's right. So the first one, so Martin's question, so you should see my screen at the moment, which, so this is the JSON-LD markup, and so you can add this. So what have you used to trick? Is it on just on the home page or all pages? And also, what was the validator saying when you kind of tried to test it? Martin?
Yeah, well, I tried to test an event, so to mark up an event. Actually, it was a Google Hangout,
Okay,
which I
interesting. Yeah.
wanted to show in the SERPs in order to make people know that there will be a hangout with a famous Hungarian sportsman.
Okay.
And the other things were product items, and I mean, like, what's the price, the quantity, the size, and things like that. So it was a classical web shop thing.
Okay. All right. Let's cover the events one first, because products and reviews are not officially supported by kind of Googlebot at the moment. So hopefully they will be supported soon, but they're not. They won't render properly sort of yet. You can add the tags for products, but it just kind of won't do anything. So when you put it through the validator, what did it show? So this one, when it loads. So if I pick, Martin's just dropped. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So well, my feedback to Martin would be test the validator, see if it throws any errors. That's the first point of call. There's not feedback within Webmaster Tools that knows whether it's indexed yet, and there's not a way to ask it to crawl specific pages. You can only submit an individual page to be crawled and then pages linked from that. Feedback there would be wait a couple of weeks to see if it suddenly starts appearing and check to see there's no validation errors. Okay, we'll sort of jump onto your Sebastian.
Yep.
Hi, sorry, I just dropped there for a second. So I just said, if did you try and validate the event using the testing tool?
Yeah.
Okay, and did you either ping the sitemap or do a submit this individual page and then pages from this? So like, did you?
No.
Okay.
No. I understood you, but I did not ping it.
Okay. And how recently did you add the markup?
Well, I think it was about 4 days before.
Okay. All right. So it's still, and was it on like homepage or was it deep linked?
I think it wasn't on the homepage, I'm pretty sure. It
Okay.
was deep linked, so probably the robots didn't go in and didn't crawl it yet, or something like that. But if I submit it from Webmaster Tools, I mean, to ping it, that would help, right?
Yeah, because you can do submit individual page and then crawl pages that are links from this page. So yeah, that will definitely, that's basically manually telling Google that content has changed. And you can also ping a sitemap as well. So if you've got the XML sitemap on there,
yeah, I do.
Where is it? Yeah. So let's see, tools. So you can do these ones as well. So that there's no way of pinging just kind of JavaScript kind of Googlebot at the moment. So you have to just do the whole on its own. So yeah, my recommendation really is kind of wait a bit and see what happens, assuming there's no validation errors.
Could you go back just a second? So
sure.
Can I see it, because I saw it like you send the ping to every kind of robots because there was a ping Yandex or something. I mean,
Yeah, this is just a standard list of just telling Google to come and just reread a sitemap.
okay.
So it doesn't. Um, uh, you can either do this or you go into Webmaster Tools and click Submit Sitemap or crawl individual page. But you're right. What's really needed is I'll feed this back through to the kind of Google team. Is when you roll out kind of JSON LD custom HTML, and when you press publish in GTM, then there should really be something that feeds back through to Google Organic, so that it knows to come and crawl those pages. That would be a logical thing because it's kind of Google don't go into Google. So I've heard that from other people as well. There's another post on the forum where someone was not sure whether if there was a problem with their code because it was validating, but it hadn't shown up yet. The only other thing I'd say is Google selectively decides when it shows that information in SERPs. So there's no guarantees it's actually going to use that information. But yeah, there is definitely a bit that's missing, which is you don't have feedback within Webmaster Tools that says that Google has got like errors going through the site, because it does do that for rich snippets at the moment, but it doesn't do that in bulk for JSON LD. It wouldn't surprise me if some of the other, Moz or whoever come up with a crawler that does do some kind of validation of that, but it's not there yet. So yeah. I can't. I don't have a solution, Martin. But I'd say I'll check it again in 2 weeks' time. If you ping me the URL, I'll kind of just double check it, or I can try it in the validator now if you want.
Okay.
Or I can put this into the chat box and just give it try it.
No, not yet, Phil, because not now, Phil, because I'm on mobile at the moment. But
okay.
I'll try to get it back later if you send it to me or whatever.
Okay. I suppose the only way you could you might be able to infer that it's been enabled, because in theory your CTR from organic should increase. So you might be able to use the impression data within Webmaster Tools, which is pulled into Google Analytics, and then try and set up an alert to say if branded CTR increased or impressions, organic CTR.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do, because I saw it that we had a high position in organic, but we had a low CTR, and I went into the Webmaster Tools to the search query and to the impressions, and then I started to monitor if this CTR is raising due to the fact that I put out the rich snippets, and it did. So it really helped. It was a good strategy in terms of SEO, but it was difficult for me to set it up from Tag Manager.
Okay, I mean there are some templates that I've kind of referenced. So in that, have you got the example, which is and then if you use that username and then that login, whoops.
I think I have this one, Phil, because it showed this at Super League.
I've had to change the number at the end just because Google Accounts doesn't seem to like it. But if you log in on that, then you can see some of those examples. So in here there is admin. There's these JSON LD examples are present within here, so you can export these from this account, and then import them into an account you're working on. So literally just go, if you use that login, current version.
A template set up there. Okay.
Yeah. But these are the examples. Whoops. Actually from the kind of fetching. Whoops. these are from examples that Google have provided. So, and I've checked them. I've just used a JSON validator, which is this one, just to confirm that the code is valid as well. So you can put JSON LD into this, and it would also, there's a kind of quick way of kind of checking it. So where is it? An example. So I go organization. I was read only this one, and okay, actually I can still do it.
Do you mind if I have that login too, so I can look at that?
Yeah, sure. I'll put it back on the screen. In Actually, if I put it in the chat box, then
Okay. Thank you.
sometimes you get like a warning if you're in a certain country when you try and use that login. Unfortunately, you can't do anything about that. If you get that, I've linked to some of these templates. If you check out SlideShare, and you can just download them that way instead.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be great if there was a way of on Google Accounts where you could just say anyone can log in using this login, but annoyingly, even when you turn off kind of safety to kind of low, it still it still tries to kind of be a bit too yeah. Yeah, so I just wanted to quickly demonstrate this other validator, which is a good one of just confirming that oops, if I do that, so this will go green if it's valid, and if there's a mistake, so say like if there's a comma at the end or something like that, then it won't validate. So that's quite a good kind of way of just double checking stuff. So that was just a JSON light. Okay, cool. All right, I'll jump to your question. Oops, just going to go on. Have too many windows open here. Okay, yeah, so Marcel, you asked, so you're implementing an e-commerce data layer. What CMS are you using?
Well, we have Syscom.
Okay.
So we actually, it's a really weird. So we have our CMS, but then we also use Avectra. So it's like our database is e-commerce. So the links are extremely different, and the e-commerce links are so long and complex. So I'm having a hard time, well, one, determining which specific link I need to use when I put in that in Tag Manager, and two,
Okay.
also making sure that I don't know if I have to on the script write like all of the databases that we have in order to track. The links are extremely different, and the e-commerce links are so long and complex. I think I'm having a hard time. There's an echo. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just gonna mute you just temporarily, Marcelo. Just while that.
Also making sure
and
that
I'll just answer that.
okay. On script, right, like all the databases that we have. I don't know if there's an echo on me.
Okay. Yes. So there's an example on. Well, there's a guide I wrote quite a while ago that has some e-commerce examples within here. So by all means, go and have a look through that. That's as a starting point. You've also got and then within here, this is so here's the kind of e-commerce sort of or enhanced e-commerce kind of code. So first point of call, I'd actually say that before even kind of touching these, what was see if there's any kind of plugins for your existing CMS. So you said is it Everdata or something?
A Vectra.
Oh, right, okay.
Or I think they're now called maybe Abila.
Okay. I haven't heard of that. How do you spell that? Is it E?
It would be A-V. I can type it on the chat.
Or if you go to builtwith.com, and then that's another quick way of working out what CMS is running.
Okay. Our CMS is called. It's a really old system.
Okay.
And the e-commerces. But let me see if I can send you a link. So this is the main link. But as you when you go deeper into the transactions, the link gets longer and longer and longer and longer and longer, because I guess it does it based on what step you're in and whether you're logged in or not. So it just keeps on adding queries to the link.
Okay. And is there anything within the page that specifies that it's a page as a transaction? So either is there a
number and letters, pretty much, or mostly numbers and letters? Yeah.
Okay. But so the actual URL is, so it's, let's just say /sale complete, and then it's got numbers, etc. on there.
It doesn't even say it like that. It would just say, it would say wizard step equals letters and numbers. So when I tested two different transactions, the confirmation page or the thank you page, both ended up with the same URL. So I assumed that was what everybody would be getting. I'm still waiting on somebody else to test the transaction for me so I could make sure that we're both getting the same URL at the end. But it's a series of just letters and numbers. It's not an actual /thank you or /confirmation.
Okay, yeah. So this is so it's like a page ID or a token. So. And is that okay? Is that token changing on every user? So is it a session kind of token?
I don't believe it changed. I believe as you're going through the transactions, it is based on the individual user. But at the end, but once you process a transaction, that everybody, because when I looked at Google Analytics, I looked at that specific URL, as a page, and that's the only one that comes up with the page views. So, and there's nothing else that tells me that. I didn't find any other link that I could see that was getting. Well, I can't see transactions, but I could see page views.
Okay. And obvious question. So is GTM on these pages? Yeah.
No. Okay. No. I'm in the middle of working on implementing GTM. This one has the classic, because I'm fairly new to my job.
Yeah.
So
no.
Forced to implement Google Analytics.
Yeah, that's right. So you're migrating from an existing implementation,
yes.
And you want to kind of add GTM on there.
Yes.
Okay. And yeah, so So the first thing I'd say is there a kind of plugin for GTM for this CMS? That's the first point of call, just to save a lot of time. If it's a kind of a CMS that's not as well known, then it's the chances of that are not as high, unfortunately. So, advertising. Yes, it's not even detecting what CMS it is on here.
The CMS is called Syscom.
Okay, oops.
But it's a really old system too.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't work with anything.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Let's assume that there's no plugin for it at the moment. Can you add kind of code to the top of the page? So is there like a global header, so for instance, so you've got the Google Analytics async code that's currently added in the header. Do you know if the CMS allows you to add Google Tag Manager code in a global include?
I would think we can, yes.
Okay. So the first thing I'd say would be just create a Google Tag Manager account. I'd definitely do it in the new interface, because the old interface will go away eventually in, I don't know, a couple of months or something. So use the interface that's like colorful, and then see if the developers can add the GTM code ideally at the top of the body, so just after this opening body tag, but you need to make sure they don't add it within any div tags, because it's kind of an ASP system. Normally what you'll find is they'll probably try and add it here, or within a div, and you'll get an error if they do that. So that's the kind of the preferred option. If they can't add it just after the top of the body because it's like an old CMS, or WordPress is the same, you can't easily add it at the top of the body, or not automatically. So the next option, I would say, just to kind of, for speed purposes, I'd actually say put it in the global footer. It's not an ideal situation, because you'll lose 2% of traffic by doing that. But if you're just trying to get things moving, and pretty much all CMSs have a global footer, then you'll be able to kind of get started. The other option as well is you can actually you can add GTM in the header in replace of where your old code was, but you have to sort of separate out the two bits of the GTM code. So what I mean by that is so you see here, so this is your Google Tag Manager code that's normally added in the top of the body, but if you wanted to add, if the CMS only allowed you to add it in the header or in the same position where that other code is, what you could do is you can do this, where you add, oops, so you've got the header there and the body.
Okay.
Yeah. But what you need to do is you need to make sure the iframe bit goes still in the body. Oops, missed off a tag there. Yeah, words doing funny things. So okay, can you still hear me? My screen's going a bit weird. All right, just see if it will catch up in a second. I think Word might have crashed.
I broke it.
It's all right. I think I've probably got too many programs running on here. But what I was trying to say is, I don't want to recover that. Is so you can add it.
Oh, to be under the body.
Yes, exactly. So I'll just try to open that again. So you put your I'd say don't remove this code yet. I'd say just add your GTM bit, just after this, and then put the iframe bit in the body. And the iframe bit can just be in the footer of the page, because like only 3% of people are actually going to see that iframe bit anyway, so it's kind of like low importance. But you will potentially get an error if you add the iframe in the header. And there's one other thing you may need to do. What you will need to do is if you have to add if you're loading GTM in the header, you have to add a blocking rule to make sure that IE 7 and 8 don't load a custom HTML, and submit listeners don't load. So what I mean by that is, it's probably if I just go to an example page, just got let's go WordPress. I was going to say, well, load. Yes, it's this bit. This is what I'm. So if you are going to add GTM in the header in the same position as your universal analytics code, you just need to be mindful that you'll have a potential bug in IE sort of 7 to 8. So you had to add a blocking rule to all custom HTML and to submit listeners, and the blocking rule that you'd use would be that.
Okay.
So that's a kind of a workaround for being able to add it in the header. But this is kind of I haven't actually. So it'd be good to ask the IT team if they can add it at the top of the body as the first kind of step, and if they say, if it's an old CMS, no, they can't do that. They can only add it in the same position as the old or the universal analytics code. In that situation, then you'd use this method.
Okay, and hopefully they can do it the right way, though.
Yeah, well, both ways will work. It's just kind of officially at the moment you're only meant to add it in the top of the body, but it works perfectly fine in the header as long as you add these, as long as you move the iframe bit and add this patch for IE 7 and 8 for custom HTML and submit listeners.
Okay.
If you have a look at that example login within here, it's got custom HTML blocked on IE8 and the same for submit listeners. I'll see if I can show the screenshot of it actually.
Okay.
Templates, triggers. Yeah, so I've just added it as a blocking rule on this example, but you see that this is basically a trigger that just says if it's IE8 or IE9, don't do something. So like don't load a tag, and in order to get that to work, so that's the rule. So that's where it basically says this is if the browser is IE8 or 9. And this is using regular expression, and then that bit there where it says navigate to user agent, so that's a global JavaScript variable.
Okay.
Okay, cool. But as I said, this is only in the situation where you need to replace the existing Google Analytics code in the header with GTM.
Okay.
So you're just doing it in exact same position for same position. If you're adding it in the body, you don't need to worry about this sort of stuff.
Okay, perfect.
Cool. And the other bit, so the other thing I'd say would be if the URLs, I mean, I suspect that your URLs probably do have something within them that uniquely identifies them, or uniquely identifies a page. So it's going to be, so when, for instance, if I go to that, an echo. Sorry. Yeah, so you've got a site ID and then a key ID, a web key.
Yeah.
So I suspect that's probably like a product ID. Sorry, not product ID, a page ID. So it wouldn't surprise me then if, because if, like for instance, if I go to another page, so that's currently on 076E. It's not got a.
Well, so here I have the link to. This is the link that I get at the end of the transaction. Would be
Okay.
with the Avectra acrp.com at the beginning. Yeah, so that's what I get at the end of every transaction that I get. So I'm assuming, you know, there's the step, the key is all based on each step that I've taken.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so the web key and the site ID were on that other landing page,
Yeah.
but you've also got a wizard step and a wizard key. So on the home page, it was adding. No, it's not doing it anymore. So that page, sorry.
Because they're different. It's like that. Our e-commerce has a completely different link.
Okay. So this domain,
Yes.
is this the e-commerce bit or the cart?
Yes.
Okay. So you're going to need to do cross-domain tracking as well when they go from one site to the other?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, so that's site ID, so web key. Yeah, so site ID and web key. So these are yeah. So like for instance, oops. Right. So that web key on the home page that I just got a moment ago is that one. So
they're different.
Yeah, yeah. So that's basically I think that's a page ID.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So I would say that it's probably that wizard step that looks like your kind of sale complete sort of identifier. But you got kind of two options really. Either use something with the URL to confirm that it's sort of triggering pages. I mean, actually, you can check this if you go to Google Analytics and just search for that URL, and if all of the thank you pages have that within there, then you know it's a sale complete.
Okay.
Also, does the page title sort of change? Does it say you know, whoops, thank you for order? Because that's another way of just verifying that the sale complete page is that URL.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do. For the title, it's it says just thank you, but it doesn't appear on the URL. That's why I was having a little trouble.
But you can see that within Google Analytics. So if you go into the URL report.
Okay.
An example, then you can quickly kind of verify because, so for instance, on here on the homepage title, it's got that. So you know you could confirm that it's a sale complete page.
Okay. Okay. So just look up what the title actually said for that specific page.
Yeah, that'll help you confirm that it's a sale complete.
Yeah.
There is, in an ideal world, I'd actually say try and not rely on URL elements. There is kind of inline JavaScript that says this is the thank you page. So, for instance, if there was a variable that said, you know, thank you equals true, you could use that as a way to trigger the e-commerce code. And that's a better way of doing it in that if your URLs change, normally kind of these inline elements don't change. But without seeing the HTML from your sale complete page, I don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
Also, bear in mind that you've got a very old tracking code here. and this one's synchronous, so it'll kind of slow down the speed of the page. And you've also got set domain none within there, which is a very a legacy element that you have to be. That will cause potential issues with tracking.
Okay.
So you had, I think, how did I manage to? So that's on the portal. It's got.
Yeah, a lot of this was set up before I got there, and when I realized that both the home and the e-commerce had different tracking, it's a shocker.
Yeah. So that's the cart.
Yes.
And then, oops, was it this one that was the?
That's the cart also.
Oh, whoops. There's no tracking on your 404 page as well, it appears. That's unusual.
Oh.
Oh, it's doing a kind of redirect on there. Yeah, so to summarize, I would say, Marcella, so first point of call is get your tag manager added to all pages.
Okay.
Like that's like, and then kind of then you can work out the logic for triggering these tags.
Okay.
You definitely need to do a bit of a cleanup exercise in terms of there's that old kind of sort of async. You've got like some pages where it's the new version of the code, Universal Analytics, and then some pages where it's got you know, a very old.
The classic one.
This one, yeah, that's not even classic. That's the traditional one.
Oh.
So you really need to kind of standardize. You asked what's the best way of kind of migrating. What you can do is you can say replace this code with a data layer event. So, for instance, you can do this. Oops, there so, what you could do there is you could add you could replace your inline code here with an event that says do the same thing. So that would allow you to seamlessly migrate from your old code to the new code.
Okay.
But you would need to add this this event to trigger some Google Analytics code in GTM. So instead of having a tag that says firing all pages, you'd have a tag that fires even event of onload GA page view is present.
Okay.
Because the good thing about if you do this method, and if the developers do make the change at like the middle of the night, then it will just seamlessly work. Whereas otherwise, you need to be ready to press the publish button at the point where they take off the old code.
Okay, and then I don't even know when they would do that too.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
The other thing I would really recommend, there's a really handy little plugin. If you're on Chrome, just search for Tag Injector.
Injector?
Yeah, it's this one. And it allows you to add GTM to within your browser, so you can test it out before it's kind of added to the site.
Oh, perfect.
And what it does is you'll see this little box appear here, and then you would you need to go and you know, so say if I just create a brand new account as an example. You know, my domain test. Okay. And then I could actually just add a tag onto that page that only I'd see in my sort of browser. So for instance, so to do that, you just add that GTM account ID that you've just created into the injector.
Oh.
Yeah, and then if I went to your site and click start, oops, it will add that Unix code, and you can see that it added it because you see that alert just popped up. So you can test it that way without the developer making any changes.
Interesting. That's pretty cool.
Cool. And the other thing I'd say, if you get a chance, it's a really good idea. There's some helpful kind of tools to check that it's working. So this one's kind of Tag Assistant. So if you just search for Chrome for Tag Assistant, and it will tell you if there's any kind of problems with the code. Like for instance, if you've added old Unix code in the header, or it's like an really old method that's no longer supported, it will give you warnings about those.
Okay.
And it will turn kind of red or orange if it's more serious issues. So blue is just just so you know.
Okay.
And there's another one as well, which is the GA debugger, which would also output some more detailed information. So this one, you have to press Control-Shift-I in Chrome to bring up this little console. And then when you have this debugger enabled, it will tell you more detailed information about what's happening on the page. So for instance, it tells me that there's a very old method that's being used, or it should use a slightly newer method, and it will also tell you any other kind of warnings with the code that's used. Bear in mind that with your implementation, if you're using that set domain none, and you're going to switch over to a setting that's not using set domain none, you need to be careful that you maintain those cookies. Otherwise, if you reset them, all your visitors will suddenly become new visitors.
Okay.
So what I'd say to get around that would be either just go straight to Universal Analytics, where the set domain auto kind of gets around that, or you'll have to ensure when you add GA Classic to the site, you always remember to put it as a set domain none. Because if you add set domain none and you mix that with a default kind of setting for GA Classic, then you end up with cookies going all over the place, and you'll see lots of traffic all appear as direct. And the pay search team and organic team won't get too happy. So I'm just kind of warning you that just go straight to Universal, and you don't need to worry about that setting.
Yep. I will do that.
Okay. All right. All right. So I said the theme of this session was tips. So there's some other kind of tips I wrote down. So I had to do one recently, which was adding share this to a site, which is a bit of more of a pain than you'd think, really. So I've got an example here when it loads. So the share this code, this is the little kind of, actually share this have now updated so that they support both GA Classic and Universal, but the way that it works is a bit interesting. So this is added via custom HTML, and I've triggered this on DOM ready, or window loaded. I haven't done this on page view just because it's a non kind of primary tag, and and I want my kind of analytics tags loaded before this loads anyway, because people can't really share a button until the content's loaded. So what I've done here is I've got the standard share this kind of settings where it's got tracking turned on, and then my account ID, and then what I also had to do on this one was share this. As crazy as it seems, they don't have dynamic detection for SSL and non-SSL. So like for instance, this page here, and go to which loads fine. The token try just to get rid of. But as soon as I put HTTPS at the front of that, it gives a warning because there's no SSL certificate for this domain, which is crazy. So what you've actually got to do here is you've got to actually add an S in front of it, and then there's a valid certificate for that domain. So basically, rather than what could have been a really simple implementation of just doing that, as in, whoops, equals that, where it would dynamically detect. I have to kind of do a bit of a workaround, which I've just done a look up whether it's on HTTPS or not, and then add that host name. So the lookup is actually here. It's this one. So I've just looked at the protocol, which is this bit. It's actually, sorry, that bit, in fact. And if it's HTTPS, then it falls to the secure one, and if it's not, it falls to that. But the default is the secure version. So even if there's a delay in loading these, it loads kind of safely. I mean, that probably could be done within JavaScript as well to kind of tidy up this method, but I'm just trying to do it all within sort of GTM. So that's how I sort of solved that problem with adding share this to a site where it doesn't officially support HTTPS by default. So that was my first tip, and then the other tip was I'm not sure I'm going to load this on here. There's a bit of an annoyance with GTM at the moment where if you want to kind of turn on demographics across a whole site, which is it's going to take ages to load. So there's a little tick box for demographics, which let's see if I can bring up the post that explains this. Feedback. Oh, it's going to take a while to load. So it's, where is it? Yeah, so it's this one. So this is the problem. So basically, if you need to bulk enable that setting on the account, then you either have to go through all your tags and tick the box, or you can download the account as a text file. So you go into account settings and then export, and then change this setting from false to true, and then it turns on across the whole account. Bear in mind that Brian also recommended last week that it's actually better to use the tick box than it is to use the settings method for turning on demographics, just because in a very small number of instances, when you just use a setting method, the second pixel might not necessarily fire. So it's a more reliable way to just tick the box. But because there's not a macro setting for turn on demographics, you have to do this export, change the text file, and then import it back. The text file, though, this method only works on V2. In V1, you don't actually see this value present in the text file. So you either have to kind of add it, or just update to V2 and then replace it. So that's how I kind of got around that problem. And I guess the other one was just using templates. So I've got a bunch of templates on here which I use just to kind of start off an account from the beginning. So auto events is a good example. So if I want to bulk enable auto events on an account, I would start from a template, and then I'll just pull this into an account. The other actually tip I was going to say within here when it loads is I actually use a kind of nested lookup for the account ID. So I ask it to check the container ID, then the host name, then if it's running in debug mode, and then the last one is the primary account. So that's the way that I do of doing that. One thing I would say, which is not really a tip, but I wish there was a way of speeding up GTM. The new interface I've found, it keeps getting stuck loading large containers. You saw there it just popped up saying sort of kill Chrome, so I can't really do much about that. I think it'd be great if there's a way of turning off recent activity so that it did load this page a bit faster. That would be great. But enough about kind of my suggestions, because we've actually gone over time now because it's it's gone over an hour. So I'll on that note, I'm just going to press the stop broadcasting. So we'll do this again in 2 weeks' time. If anyone's in the UK, there's a Measure Camp coming up on next weekend on the 14th, which should be a really cool event. Yes, otherwise I'll see you in 2 weeks. I'm just going to press stop broadcasting.